Welcome back to Under Further Review with Chris Burnette and Brandon Boykin. Today we have a extra special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Christian Conley, NFL wide receiver, currently Jacksonville Jaguars, or are you a free agent? I can't remember. Yeah, current free agent.
Currently chasing the money, wherever that's at.
Yes.
About to get a lot of it.
The bag man. So thank you, bro, for joining Under Further Review. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. You guys have had a lot of guys on here, and thanks for thinking of me. I'm glad I can make it and spend a little time with y'all.
Yeah, for sure, bro. I know we all overlapped at Georgia. We all played together, but I think us three are a lot alike, just in our mindsets, just in the things that we value, and just from like a creative perspective. Like, you're always a dude that's doing things and trying new things and not afraid to try new things, and just a creative mind. And for that, like, I think there'll be a lot of substance to this. But I wanted to kind of ask you about the football aspect first, because I know that's where people kind of recognize you from and talk about that. Like, obviously, you going into what, year 7 now in the league, but this year in particular was weird because you were in a pandemic, and like, I've been out of football for a couple of years, but like, tell us like what that was like playing without fans, bro. Like, how was that? Did it affect you in any type of way? Like, for real? Did that affect you in any type of way on the field, and then maybe like even off the field?
I'm gonna be 100% honest, right? We didn't have fans in our home stadiums, and I think that could affect different teams differently. And I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, but having quiet stadiums and being in Jacksonville for 2 years, there wasn't too much of a difference. I'm saying that in the
that's par for the
course.
Huh?
There wasn't really that much of a difference. You got to really create and bring your own energy. You got to really focus in. But I could tell for some teams that are used to having their stadiums sold out every week, it was really odd. I remember because in Jacksonville, Florida was open before a lot of people, we had fans in our stadium. Even if it was a limited amount of fans, we still had people there. But I remember the first game that we went to where there was no people whatsoever, none at all. I remember playing in Tennessee. I remember playing in Baltimore, and those stadiums can usually get a little bit louder. And there was not one person in there, and all the crowd noise that you saw in the TV copy wasn't even being played in the stadium. So it was dead silent to us. But when you go and watch the TV copy, they're playing crowd noises, and trying to mimic what it would sound like at a game. And that was really odd to me to know that
I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that sound noise you guys heard watching on TV wasn't in a lot of stadiums wasn't being played.
It was like practice out there.
Right. It's like you going to Sanford to scrimmage.
What? Echo. You could hear someone on the other sideline sneeze. Like, that's how weird. It was really odd. But I mean, like, that was just like on the field. Off the field, I mean, I got a COVID test every day from July until January. So I had something stuck up my nose early in the morning every single day. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that people don't realize is, like, when you're on lockdown, when you're on quarantined as a team, you get tested every single day.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, there's no day off. There's no day that you can leave on your bye week. You can't leave. You can't go out of town. You can't go. You can't do anything. You can't, when you're on the road, you can't leave the hotel. So it was definitely an interesting dynamic. Spending the football season makes you spend a lot of time with guys in the locker room anyway. But when you can't leave, it amplifies that. And so it can amplify a lot of the good. It can amplify a lot of the bad. It just was an interesting season as a whole.
That's crazy. So basically, it felt like you were like in camp in perpetuity, basically. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
You're in camp the whole time, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Like, there's zero you can do about it. And I mean, the only light at the end of the tunnel was Sundays. Really, you get to play a game. The game might be weird, but like, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. And then it's right back into, I'm gonna be stuck in this building all week, getting ready for another game.
Yeah.
And so I think it was interesting. I think it gives guys a lot of perspective on their previous seasons that they've had that were normal. I have no idea how this will affect the minds of rookies. This is all they know. That's all they think of football. The time constraints that they're about to see are different. Like in the season, they couldn't go anywhere. So their season was probably a lot more stressful than, like our first couple seasons in the league, because on our bye week, we could leave. We could go see family. Yeah. On the weekend after a game, we could go to dinner. We could do stuff like that. Right. They couldn't. So they were under lockdown the whole season, but they didn't have an off-season program either. They didn't have OTAs. Their camp was shorter. No preseason games. So I'm interested to see when things normalize, how that affects those guys, because they're going to have to go through, a real training camp, a real OTAs. Depending on what they negotiate, they might have to play preseason games that they never played. So I think that we're at a big turning point for the league, because now people are starting to ask, okay, well, is all of this stuff necessary? We just had a season without all the extra stuff. Is it necessary? And so we'll see from now on if that goes in and out. But I mean, like you guys played in college, and in college you had probably a little bit of a more significant time off. But in the NFL, it's kind of like you in the season, you have a month or two off, and you're immediately getting ready for OTAs. Like, and everyone keeps asking me, do you guys think that's necessary to come back so fast? I don't think so. I mean, like you guys played too, like 2 months off, and then you're back.
COVID might have did something that the NFLPA could never do, which was like eliminate the useless preseason games and all of the OTAs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's real.
Because the biggest fear, I think, you can speak to it more, Chris, because you're kind of still in it, but like they feared that rookies wouldn't be prepared, right? Like to come in and play right away, and it showed that they were able to do that,
bro. And even if you go back like to that time period when the season was kind of in flux, like there was a decision having to be made about how the season will play out. Did you ever, I have to ask you this specifically, Chris, did you ever feel fearful about your life or how you could impact somebody else's life because you would potentially be exposing yourself? Or did you even consider like, man, I may not even play this season? Like, what were the conversations like leading into the season when that summertime hit?
I feared that at first until I realized how on lockdown they had us, how I wouldn't be able to leave during the season. I wouldn't even be able to see my parents if I wanted to. Having a dad who was in those at-risk groups really made me think about it at first. And then once I realized, we're getting tested every day and I can't leave, I can't go see him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that really made me feel a lot better once I realized the standards that they had in the building. Once I saw, the number of cases that we had, it was dramatically low. And then that even got to a point where we had been tested so much, doing the rapid response test, the PCR one that you get back in 30 minutes, and the 24-hour test, doing those tests so many times, it got to a point where my dad felt comfortable coming down and visiting us because, he was sheltering in place in Georgia too. Because our house was quarantined. My wife wasn't working. She had to stop working because there was an outbreak at her job. And so basically we were just stuck in the house. And so eventually I got more and more comfortable. I don't think it made any of the hurdles you had to jump over easier. They were still very annoying, but they were necessary. They were necessary because, there was a lot of guys. There are guys who fell in those at-risk groups. There are guys with kids in those at-risk groups. And so I think it was a necessary sacrifice that we all needed to make. And to your point that you said earlier, Brandon, like, honestly, COVID made the league realize, like, hey, there is a bunch of busy work being given to these professional athletes, and it's only this sport. No other sport reports that early before their season to make sure people are prepared. In baseball, they show up to training camp before their season starts. Same with basketball. Like every other sport, they don't need to have an OTAs, an off-season activity. And so I think my argument would be, hey, like, you're worried about the rookies. We're setting the bar too low. If a rookie isn't taking this opportunity seriously, then that's on him. You shouldn't be punishing vets for the lowest common denominator. If a rookie's not taking that transition seriously and he's not physically and mentally prepared coming in, that's on him. So if you guys want to take the rookies for 2 weeks after you draft them so that you can get them the playbook, they can start learning a little bit. You can maybe work them out a little bit so they can realize what kind of shape they need to be in. Do that. Have the rookies for 2-3 weeks. But the vets who've been doing this, let them stay at home. Let them spend some time with their families.
Exactly. And I think that was probably why it initially started. Like back in the day, bro, they just didn't want people to get in trouble. Guys had too much time off, so they were trying to minimize that time.
No question.
But just kind of allude to what you said about being so isolated at home this entire season, it being different. Like, you had to have an outlet, some type of outlet, right? And I know that you're a creative guy. And so I wanted to ask you, did you use any of that time to create? I know that you're a film producer, you do music, man, you surf, you are a gamer. What was the relief from football this year when you had that time off?
I really got into two things heavily during COVID. I did not surf because the beaches down in Jacksonville were a little wild. There were people out there acting like there was nothing going on. And I realized, hey, if I go out there and I get a positive test, that's potentially game checks that are getting taken away from you. You don't get paid for those games.
If you get COVID,
I'm not going out there.
Oh,
I don't know that. That ain't happening, dog. So I'm not going out there to surf. So I didn't surf the whole year. Didn't surf, but I did create some stuff in the house. I shot my first short film that was pretty much all by myself. So I shot it. My wife helped me, and then I had one neighbor help us on a shot.
It was fire too.
I needed someone to pull focus, and so I had maybe 2 outside people helping on this project, but it was essentially 90% of the film. I set up the camera. I'm hitting record. I'm holding a wireless focus puller under the table because I'm in it, and I'm pulling focus, and all this stuff. Yeah. And so I shot a short film called Quarantine, and I thought it was timely. I thought it was relatable. And it was just about being in the house with someone that you love, but literally being around each other all the time and how you get on each other's nerves. And I believe that it came out really well. And that was a great way for me to release some of that pent up creative energy. And then the other thing that I really got into was streaming. I got into streaming. I play a lot of video games. I got into streaming and building a community and just really giving myself and other people a way to get out of the house, so to speak, while, being in the house.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. I know that you've always, loved being creative, loved telling stories. So if y'all have not seen Quarantine, you got to check it out. It's less than 10 minutes. Super dope. We're going to link it in the description if you're watching it on YouTube. But also I know you did the Star Wars. You directed that Star Wars film towards the end of your time at UGA. That was incredible to see, the special effects, just the thought that was put into the actual storytelling. It was crazy. And then you with gaming, I remember my senior year, we were playing Injustice for 2 weeks straight. Cause in Maymester when nobody's on campus, it was me, Conley, X, a few other random people. We were playing Injustice day in, day out. Yeah, KG. Yeah, those were the days, man. So it's kind of cool to see that you stayed true to yourself. You never said, you know what, I'm a professional now. I can't stick with some of the interests, the habits, the things that I love. And you've kind of enhanced them as time has gone on, which is super dope to see. Cause I think too many people get too self-conscious and allow people to put them in a box and don't allow themselves to kind of be free and be themselves. So I guess really my question, bro, is I feel like you've always been that way. What makes you have that confidence or the thought process to feel you know what, regardless of where other people think I should be or should do, I'm going to do it my way. Where does that come from?
I think part of that just comes down to, doing what you enjoy. I mean, at the same time, at the same token, look at what you guys are doing. You guys are doing the same exact thing, I'm doing. And I think we're all just in different places in our lives, and we're using the opportunities and the gifts that we got. I think finding a way to do the things that you enjoy, or really just the things that you come up with in your mind. We often come up with ideas so many times and go, man, this would be really cool. Or, oh, you know, I could really do that, or I could do that so much better than these guys are doing it. And we never do it. Right. We never put pen to paper. We never step out, and we never put ourselves at risk of failure. I think one of the things I learned in college, you know, watching other people is at a certain point, you just got to say, hey, man, I'm just going to do it. Whether it works or not, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try. And even if it doesn't initially pan out, I'm just going to stick with it because it's something that I enjoy. I think that's where I got with the film stuff, is like, hey, like if this pans out, if it blows up, if it becomes big, it doesn't really matter. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. Same with streaming. Even though my stream is growing, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. And if it didn't grow, I would just continue to do it because it's something that I enjoy. And much like those are things that not only I feel like I'm good at, but I enjoy. I feel like you guys are doing the same thing. Like, Chris, I see you still are drawing and you're creating art. I try. You know what I mean? Like that's something that you enjoy. You know, Brandon, you talk really well. You talk a lot and you do it well. And you're still finding ways to share your opinions and to put your face and your triceps on camera. You know, you got to do that. Right. You know?
Triceps, boy. He going to be next once he retires.
Oh, no question. No question. His shirt like, gonna be off on the stream on Twitch.
That's the same people that you guys were when we were in college, and you guys are just more mature versions of that. I mean, that's to me, that's what I see. Because I mean, like when I came in, you know, I'm the freaking freshman. You guys are, you know, upperclassmen, but I didn't see guys who were just football players. I saw an artist and a lineman. You know, I saw one of the SEC's top defensive backs who was also in the journalism school. When I came in, they were telling people that athletes didn't go in that school. But I saw that Brandon Boykin was in the school and he was crushing it. And so I was like, oh, man, I could do that. So that's the reason I went into Grady. You know what I mean? Like that gave me the confidence to continue doing what I like to do.
Yeah, it's crazy because when Conley came in, right, like you knew from the jump that he was going to contribute, but you also knew like he was just different. Like he was different. No question. There's a difference between being like an elite athlete and then just being like a different type of person mentally and like just kind of being just more mature than you really are supposed to be coming in. Right. And I think that's always kind of followed you. And even in the league, bro, like you go to Jacksonville, you become team captain like right away, pretty much, right?
Immediately.
And I know it was a younger team, but like you are the captain of that team. And then you talk about just kind of what happened over the course of this year, social injustice and the things that happened. And you were, like you said, you're yourself, you're authentic, you stayed true to who you are, and you became a voice for that. Like how important did you think that was, particularly this year, and did it like elevate you in some sense of your platform, or do you feel like people always knew you were passionate about that, or is it something that you think you kind of had to maneuver through and see a negative side of people that you didn't expect, that, you know, with everything that happened this year?
I feel like I saw a lot of negatives in areas that people wouldn't expect, you know? And I think the first thing that like I would tell you guys is like, I never asked for those platforms. I just didn't back down from them when someone put the mic, you know, in my face or said, hey, here, what do you think? I didn't back down. I just was honest. And I think one of the things that, like, there's two sides to it, you know, the whole captain thing, and then the whole civil rights and the whole activist side of things. And when it came to the activist side of things, it was just, you know, me telling people like, hey, this is my experience. This is what I see. And this is how I think that we can move forward with education and just having empathy, you know, just caring about other people in the most general sense. And I feel like some people had this reaction like, oh my goodness, that's so profound. And it's not profound. You know, it's just in this day and age, we take less and less time listening to people, and there's a lot more apathy instead of empathy. We don't care if it doesn't really involve us. So being able to articulate that kind of shocks some people, but then it made some other people angry. Because I think another thing I learned this year is you can't please everyone. And using those platforms, there are always going to be people who are upset with the way that you use it. If you step up and you use their voice, you didn't say what they wanted you to say. If you give, you didn't give enough, or you didn't give to the place that they wanted you to give. And so I think a big thing that I learned, not only in the locker room, but also in activism, is you can't please everyone. You know, just do what you feel like is right, pray about it, and just leave it at that at the end of the day. And in the locker room, you know, on being a captain, I feel like there are decisions that you have to make, and learning how to lead is a process. It's a process at all times. And there are things you do right. There are things that you do wrong. But being comfortable enough to apologize when you get something wrong and say, hey, man, I didn't handle this the right way. Forgive me, and let's move forward. And I feel like that is the approach that I took, and I learned so much in that. And another thing that I had to learn is you just can't please everyone. You know what I mean? No matter what you do, no matter who you're trying to look out for, there are just some people who are just going to dislike everything that you do. And that's what happens in the locker room as well. But I feel like you can't allow that to stop you from being yourself or leading. You know what I mean? You can't allow that to stop you. You got to stay on mission. You got to stay on task and stay focused. That's why you're put in that spot.
Right. No, that's real. And it even lends itself back to your point earlier of kind of doing things regardless of how the outside is going to view it, because you're not going to be able to please them anyway. So you need to be doing things with a different set of motives tied to it. And there was a tweet that really, I felt like the Lord kind of plucked in place right in front of my face and slapped me with it, from SZA, you know, the singer SZA. She said, your fear of looking stupid is holding you back. And that, like, I don't know where it came from or what profound thought that kind of spurred that tweet for her. But I always seem to forget that. I'll kind of shrink back when it comes to doing even this podcast. Like, I thought about this 5-6 years ago. I shrink back from doing my art and putting it out there all the time because of a fear of other people's perspective and insight on what I'm doing. But Chris, what you said is just true. Like, do what you have to do for the service of others and have empathy and not be apathetic, because at the end of the day, you can't please everybody anyway. And, you know, us as believers, we're not called to be people pleasers anyway. So, you know, that should be the antithesis of our intention. It should always be about care and not about, you know, pleasing others. But no, that's dope, bro. And you even mentioned a little bit, Chris, just you're doing a lot of stuff. You know, you're streaming, you've done the directing and stuff in the past. And, you know, Brandon and I, part of our ethos of creating Under Further Review was about storytelling. I believe all of life is storytelling. And it's too intentional and important. Like, even the scriptures that I believe in are a narrative. It's the way that God communicated his love for us is through a story. Right. It could have been any way, but he decided to use a story. So for you, Chris, like, what do you feel like is the bones or the ingredients of a good story, as someone who's a director, someone who's creating stories and stuff as well? And also, like, where do you see your story going post football? Do you feel like you're going to continue to play another 6-7 years, or do you feel like at some point you may transition to something different?
Those are good questions. What I feel like makes a good story, you know, I wasn't classically trained as a writer, at least not this kind of writer. You know, I went to college as a print journalist. So I learned writing, but the story form that I was taught was very informational, get to the point, not a lot of elaboration, you know. And as I've been learning to write and do things creatively, I feel like the terms in my head that make up a good story are very, very primitive or rough. And so to me, what makes a good story is something that can take a viewer and make them feel something in their deepest being that makes them say, ooh, or ah, or just like that inner part of you can just can grab it and make you feel joy, can make you feel sadness, can connect with your humanity in sort of a way. I think that in and of itself creates the best kind of storytelling, because I think that we can talk about structure, we can talk about dialogue, we can talk about action, we can talk about drama, but there are so many different genres of film, and throughout all those genres, they reach storytelling in different ways. And I think there are greats across the board. And the thing that unites all of them to me is that fact that they can reach your humanity at a core level and make you feel something that you didn't walk in feeling. And I think that is an art. And I think that it is harder to do in this day and age because there's nothing original anymore. You can see a lot of it coming. And so if you go into a film knowing that it's trying to make you feel a certain way, it's not going to be necessarily a genuine reaction. I think those films that can catch you off guard, that can play with your expectations and still connect with that humanity, are the ones that end up being timeless. So that's what I think on that. But in terms of when I might transition, I'm not sure. I always set myself in my mind when I was coming into the league, I always told myself I wanted to play 10 years. And I think that's a possibility. But at the same time, I kind of look at that and it's something that I have to ask myself, hey, have I accomplished what I set out to accomplish playing this game? I don't necessarily think so yet. And it's also a question of, when I do transition, do I know exactly where and what I'm going to transition to? And the answer is kind of not really. I have a lot of contacts in the world that I would love to work in, but contacts aren't everything. Open doors. I feel like there needs to be a certain level of preparedness when you step through a door. I don't know. I haven't really figured all of that out yet. I feel like I'm still at that point where I'm still forgetting what I had for breakfast this morning, so I'm trying to continue to
stay in the moment,
stay in the moment and just and grow as a creator, grow as a man, and to be ready for that transition. Cause it's hard for a lot of people. I've seen people go through that transition and it's taken a big toll on them. And then I've seen other people go through the transition and they start a podcast like Brandon, and they do great, so it's just different. But I mean, like, even you, like, how was your transition? And like, do you think that it was like rough for you, or was it pretty seamless, or was it what you expected? Was it on your timeline or not?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say to you. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? And obviously, man, you going into what, year 7, 10 is real tangible for you. Like that's real, probably more than that. But once you get out, even if you know what you're gonna do, or for me, like once I got out, I knew I had a journalism degree, no different than you. I knew I wanted to attack journalism and I had connects, but it was still hard. It was still very hard. Just the difficulty of doing something completely new, like being in an entirely new environment. The doubt creeps in of like, am I ready for this? Am I prepared for this? And you said like there definitely has to be a level of preparedness before you step into something else. So man, I was like doing stuff for free, flying here, flying there, trying to do stuff on TV. And then I finally got to a point where I was confident enough and I had enough track record to get on something, but it was still hard. It was still hard. And the transition is, I still don't feel like the transition is complete. So it's interesting that like, the point you made earlier all circles back to everything that we're talking about. Is like, you just got to step out and try it.
That's real.
You just got to step out and try it. And nobody is doing that better than you really right now at this point. Like the fact that you've been able to do all of these things that you're interested in and still play at a high level, at the highest level, like it's unheard of, bro. There's something mentally that separates you to be able to do that, to be able to be creative and be productive on both sides. And so I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to transition like right away and be great at it. But like, you asked that question and it made me spark like, what do you think mentally? I guess we kind of touched on that already, but like mentally, how are you able to be so productive at both things? Like, do you have any times where you were just like fatigued and you just don't want to do it?
Yeah.
All the time. All the time.
Really?
But believe it or not, whenever I get tired like that and I'm creating, I always think back to it's stuck in my head. Coach Ball used to say, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." He used to always say that. 'Cause we would walk in the building and he had a little mattress thing and he would sleep under his desk. And we were like, dude, that's weird.
That's a real thing.
Bruh.
I thought that was a rumor.
What is wrong with you, dude? Like, go home. And he's like, you know what? I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I was just like, this guy is really, he's really going after it. He's grinding, but it's because it's something that he loves. And I enjoy the competition of football. I love competing and I love competing with myself. And that's what drives me to prepare. But I love the act of creating something with a team. And so whenever I'm writing something or I'm on set and I'm shooting something, I just get lost in it. And it doesn't seem like work to me. I typically have somebody who's on staff, who's on the crew, who just follows me around and tries to remind me to eat and drink water. Because if it's a shoot for 4 days, I can go 2 of those days without eating because I'm just so wrapped up in everything and the story that's being told and the next thing. And oh, this is a great idea. Let's incorporate this and trying to talk to different people in the crew and incorporate their ideas with mine and continue to tell my story. And it just doesn't feel like work. And so I feel like when I do get tired, it's one of those things that just in my mind, I go, hey, like you're working towards something. You're working towards creating more opportunities for people like you when you were younger and encouraging other people to tell their stories. Because just like I like creating stories, I love getting lost in a great story, even if it's not one that I've created. And so I feel like that is less like work to me. Football only feels like work when you're, running hills or gassers and you're on your 20th one or something like that. Other than that, it doesn't feel like work. When you're out there and you're competing and you're working on your craft and the skill in it, it's something that you genuinely enjoy because you love doing that. And so I feel like it's a little bit of a loaded question for me because I don't feel like I'm working. And when I'm tired, I feel like that's just a byproduct of doing what you love and doing so much of it. But yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for that. I don't know if I view it that way.
Man, you answered the question.
It's all about perspective at the end of the day. Like it doesn't feel like work. It's something that you enjoy and it's something that you continue to hone in and create, man. And that's what's so beautiful about it. I think if you take that mindset and apply to any part of your life, you're going to be successful.
No question. Like there's so many gems in this conversation for the people who are listening and watching. Even just like what you were saying, Conley, like to transition that to the everyday person. They may not be able to direct a film. They may not be able to be a 7-year NFL vet. They may not be able to be the guy who's smashing records in the NFL Combine. But if you can't do great things, you can do small things in a great way. And if you're intentional with everything that you do and do it with the passion, the insight, the perspective, you're fulfilling the purpose that God has kind of given you. So I know that we're getting a little close on time, but I wanted to make sure that I asked this question because I've known you, man, since you were 17, really. And a big part of the common thread you and I always have had is just our faith in Jesus. I know that was even a big part of just our conversations and relationships throughout college. Do you feel like just for you and the amount of success that you've had, the amount of the world that you've been able to see, you have your beautiful wife, you've had all this stuff, you've just kind of hit the mountaintop. Do you feel like there's a responsibility that God has given you in those moments to utilize your platform to give him glory? Or do you even feel like, man, this is it's a little bit scary at all, because, you know, there's so many warning scriptures about success and how that can warp people's hearts and their minds and their souls. Like, so I guess there's two questions. Like, one, like, do you feel like God gives you a responsibility in the position you're in? But two, how do you feel like the success you've had has kind of affected your heart and your soul up until this point?
I think I've always had the perspective that I'm where I'm at because God placed me there. And I think it was a little bit easier for me to recognize that I couldn't do any of this in my own right because of kind of how late I started. You know, I started playing football in high school. I was really bad.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Right.
Yeah. I got my first offer going to a Georgia camp. I played out of my mind. I had never played football that well as I did at that camp that day. And I played really well. And I got my first offer there. And then I went from camp to camp and I started getting more and more offers. And that really started building a confidence. But I remember praying before that camp, just like, hey, I just want to just do my best. Just God, just like,
that's real.
Just be with me and help me do my best. And I feel like as time went on, there were more and more examples of God's kind of hand over my life. You know, when I was young, this actually happened. When I was younger, there was a prophetic word spoken to me by this old lady in church. I never met her before, never seen her before, but it was like after church. I was walking up to the front to like meet my parents, and she like just turned out of the aisle and like, I don't know if she grabbed my arm or she like put her hand on my shoulder and stopped me. And she said something like, hey, like, I just saw something about you that in the future, you're just going to have a platform and you're going to have thousands and thousands of eyes on you and thousands of lights. And you're just going to have this platform and you're going to be able to praise God with it. And I'm just like a kid. And I was just like, okay, this is really creepy. You know? I was,
Like what?
And like from that and other things that have happened in my life, it's really easy for me to recognize that I'm only here because God has placed me here. And with that, I think that I need to continually have constant reminders of that because it's so easy to get distracted. There's so many times where you can get caught up in the worldly way of you got here on your own. You're good enough to do this by yourself. You got this, you know, you're the man kind of, you know, the bravado that comes with this territory. And I think that having people around you who remind you that you're not the man, remind you where you came from, remind you that God is the only reason that you have wealth or you have this or that, the reason you have a platform, that really helps. Because I mean, I would be the first one to tell you that it's so easy to get caught up. I've done it. I've seen many people around me do it. And there's a lot of snares out there because the enemy would love to just take you out. You know, when you have that ability to point towards the kingdom, he would love to just negate that and flip it and use you to drive people away. So I just firmly believe that, you know, early on, it was easy for me to know who I was apart from football. The more that I play, the more I recognize I need more and more reminders and people around me to remind me where I came from. I need to build myself up in the word and fall back on that more because the longer you play, the more your head can grow, the more you can think that you're doing things in your own right. And you'll just start to pull back. You'll start to pull back and it just becomes easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
That's real. It's good, man.
That's profound. I mean, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, right?
That's right.
Like as you continue to go through that career, as you continue to get that praise, are you still gonna keep the main thing,
right? Which
is God and the ultimate reality of it could all be taken away at any moment.
Just like that,
right? Like you've been playing 7 years,
right?
Every practice, every step, every turn, every cut, it could all be taken away. That's all by His grace. So it's like you put that in perspective, really, really cool, and in a really well put way.
For sure.
But I know we're close on time. But before we let you go, bro, we do this thing called 2 for 68.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard. It's a play on our numbers. I was number 2, obviously. Chris was number 68. So we ask you questions the two of us for 68 seconds. You can't skip any questions. You've got to answer the question no matter what.
Yeah, no skips, man. This is like being at the hot seat, you know.
Oh, here we go.
In camp.
Hot seat in camp.
Yeah.
In front of the room. Are you ready for 2 for 68?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. If you had one superpower in the world, what would it be?
Flight.
Flight.
Nice. Okay, Grogu or Yoda?
Roku or what?
Grogu. So Grogu from Mandalorian or Yoda?
Grogu.
You could only choose one of these. Never surf again and keep gaming, or game and never surf again.
Game and never surf.
For sure. I respect that. What is your favorite feature about yourself?
Like feature? Like physical feature?
Anything. Facial, physical feature, personality, anything.
I think 2020 made me realize I really love my ethnicity. I love my ethnicity. I love where I come from. I love what that means, what my family's been through. It means a lot to me.
Dang, that's good. We might need to tap into that at another day.
For real, for real.
Slot receiver or outside receiver?
Outside, straight up.
Outside? Oh, slot where all the money at?
Nah, man, I gotta go get the tutties down the field. All that shaking back after me.
Yeah. Hey, he's only the X. He's only the X. Well, you did it. Yeah,
congratulations,
you did it, man.
You survived 2 for 68. Man, we really appreciate you coming on with us, man, giving us just your insight, man, and a lot of substance and a profound conversation, man. Like I said, we all are extremely alike. I truly and firmly believe once you're done, or even while you're still playing, we all are gonna do something real cool together.
Oh, no question.
I really do. I feel that in my spirit.
Yeah.
Like I really do.
Yeah,
I really
feel
do.
it
Like
too.
this conversation gave me joy, man. I hope it did for you as well.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, dope. We
Thank you guys
appreciate
for having me. And trust me, I'll be pinging you guys when my next project comes up and I got some time. You know, I got to see what ideas you guys have. Let's see what we can create and put on screen for people.
Yeah, well, we can cook up. Hey, give me a part, man. I just want to be an extra.
Hey, you've been doing all the modeling stuff. You know, the cheekbones will be in there. I got, you know.
Hey, he already done been in a music video. Now
I know exactly how to
lead
light
in a
them.
music
I know
video.
exactly how to frame them. I'm going to shoot them with either a 50 millimeter or an 85, maybe even a 75.
Yeah.
Things finna look sharp.
That's right.
Get them right.
You said you got to go through the process before you get your big break. I'm just doing what I got to do before you put me on the big screen.
There we go. We'll get you in there, Chris. We'll get you in there too.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll do any and everything, bro. I'll be a big bear on the side. I'll do whatever you need me to do. But hey, bro, love you, man. We appreciate you for joining us. And thank y'all for joining us as well. Everybody who's watching on YouTube, you know the spiel that we give. Please, down in the comments, just give your perspective, your insight. Like, what's your passion and what do you feel like is holding you back? What's the one thing that you wish you wouldn't let hold you back to accomplishing your dreams? We love to hear y'all's insight and perspective. Also, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave us a like or a dislike. If you don't like it, let us know. Tell us down in the comments, please. But thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see y'all in the next one.